please. You deserve this.
Since these ones arrived, this territory has been an endless stream of mercenaries seeking reward and bringing destruction.
Then why did you guide me?
They do not belong here. Those that live here come to seek peace. There will be no peace until they're gone.
Then why do you help?
I have never met a Mandalorian. I've only read the stories. If they are true, you will make quick work of it. Then there will again be peace. I have spoken.
Welcome to the Wampa's Lair podcast. Deep in the bowels of the frozen ice caverns of Hoth, our hosts, Carl Leclerc, Jason Hunt, and Katie Horn, discuss all things Star Wars. So join the conversation and hang out here in the Wampa's Lair.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Wampa's Lair Podcast. This is episode number 358. The Mandalorian Has Spoken. I'm, as always, one of your hosts, Jason Hunt, and with me, the Mandalorian and the asset to the client, we have Carl Leclerc and Katie Horn.
Ooh, I want to be the asset, yeah.
So impersonal. Can I just...
I'm a hot piece of asset. I'm just saying.
I'm just going to be Chad Kroger, yeah.
That's what I was going to say, Carl. Oh my gosh, I feel like I've been far away for far too long.
Katie, you never want to be too far away for too long.
It's been too long, too late. Who was I to make you wait? I'm sorry.
I love that this is when we all got together tonight on Skype. Katie immediately jumped to Nickelback and talking about Far Away and Okay, sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
We missed 1 week with Katie, and we just generate into Nickelback the first thing that happens.
Exactly. That song summarizes how I feel after being gone for 1 week. Just me and Chad Kroger.
He understands you.
He does.
He understands all of us.
He gets us.
I bet you the Mandalorian loves Nickelback. No doubt about it. Like, that's his go-to jams. As soon as he got off the Razor Crest and, as soon as he froze that guy in Carbonite and, he's shut up now. He can finally blast his tunes, which is basically just Nickelback remixes all day on the Razor Crest.
Yes,
so,
of course, that is...
Yeah, obviously, man, I'm so excited to talk about the premiere of The Mandalorian. That episode was fantastic. So just off the top, though, I think it's important to say, spoilers ahead. We are not guarding anything from this first episode. So if you've not yet watched Chapter 1 of The Mandalorian, come back and listen to the episode after you've watched, because you've been warned. We are going to talk about anything and everything that was in this episode.
Yeah. It's going to be good. But before we get there, Carl, we had another iTunes review that we wanted to read, correct?
Yes. People have been incredibly generous as of late with writing some new reviews, which, again, are super, super helpful for the show. So this review comes in from Brofessor Mike, which I believe is a Boston-based Star Wars listener, Wampa's Lair listener, which I'm very excited about. And Mike says, with all the great Star Wars podcasts out there, this one truly stands out. The conversation, banter, insights, knowledge, love of Star Wars, and family that Carl, Jason, and Katie have shine in every episode. They are the spark that will light the fire. The connections that they make across the saga still blow my mind. They've broadened my fandom by sharing content from David W. Collins' soundtrack analysis and mythos discussions from the podcast, and Larians like Ion Cannon Greg. Keep up the amazing work, guys. May the force be with you. So even my buddy Greg gets a shout out in this iTunes review. So, Mike, thank you so much. That is an incredibly kind and thoughtful words about the show. So thank you so very much for saying all of that. And I look forward to meeting you soon. So,
yes.
Yeah.
No, that's very kind. And honestly, the connections that we make on this show blow me away every week. So, I'm just glad that, the things that we say are as impactful to everybody else as they are to us, as we sit here and go, whoa, what did we just come up with? So, but yeah.
So, and obviously, I love that we get to read these at the top of the show, and we have a new one. Obviously, with this being an episode about Mandalorian with its premiere today, I'm well aware that we may have some new listeners today, so hopefully we didn't come across as too self-grandizing there to start the show.
Oh, no.
But
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I know. So if you are new, just know we're always so humbled by the folks that take the time to write these reviews in the iTunes store. So we really want to give them the credit that they deserve for taking the time. So thank you, good Mike, for that very kind review. So on to other things before we hop into Chapter 1 of Mandalorian. Of course, we had a poll, which is very pertinent to tonight's episode, where we asked all of you which character you were most excited to see explored in The Mandalorian. And Jason, as always, we have some very diverse and wonderful responses to this.
Yes. This is a very interesting poll because about half of our responses came before the show aired, and the second half came after it aired midnight last night. So it's gonna kind of an interesting, fun mix here. So in sixth place with one vote each, we have oh my gosh, I can't read my own handwriting. What's his name? Grief Karga. Played by Carl Weathers. We've got a Gonk droid. Boba Fett, who I don't think is actually in this, but someone thinks he is, so awesome. The Razor Crest ship, which we all know who that is.
Yep, my friend Ben.
Yep. Jason Syndulla, who I think is another speculated character that'll be in here. He would be like 7 or 8. I think. So I'm not sure that's going to happen. But anyways, Fennec Shand, I think is how it's pronounced. And that's the character played by Ming-Na Wen. And the Blurgs also got a vote.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, those are the mounts for anybody who...
Like mini, like the mini Gungaks almost. Yeah. Yeah, which are from Ewoks, the Battle for Endor movie. So
yeah, that's so valid.
Originally, that's very true. In fifth place with 2 votes, we have the Purple Twi'lek, who, as far as I know, we still don't have a name for, and then the Asset, which could also be noted as Baby Yoda.
We said spoilers,
right?
We said it. We said it.
We said spoilers, so yeah, that's a big one there, folks.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
Okay. In fourth place with 3 votes, including mine, we have The Client, played by Werner Herzog. I'm very curious to see who this Imperial is.
You know who he is. He's the client from that famous John Grisham book. Duh. Sorry.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
All right.
Absolutely,
sorry.
Carl. In third place with 7 votes, including Katie's, IG-11.
Yes.
In second place with 8 votes, this is what surprised me, ladies and gentlemen. Second place with 8 votes is the Mandalorian himself. First place with 10 votes, a character we've not seen yet, Cara Dune.
Yeah, my lady.
Played by Gina Carano. So that one's got the most votes so far in our poll. So I'm very interested to see who she is and what she's about as well. But that honestly, that surprised me. I think more than anything with our poll was that the Mandalorian wasn't first.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But it's kind of cool that I kind of like that he's not, you know, because I think it shows that we've already just seen glimpses of characters that we really want to see explored. So I think it's cool that, you know, I mean, to be fair, obviously my vote did land with the Mandalorian. I'm just a simplistic person who loves the story of the hero. So or maybe anti-hero, whatever he might become. But, you know, so for me, it's just like, oh yeah, I like he's the one that I'm most intrigued by. But I really like that there are already people, because like that's Star Wars, right? Like it's Star Wars to like fall in love with even little side characters that we just get glimpses of. So it's kind of cool that he's not the first. I mean, granted, Cara Dune is probably going to be a massively important character to the story. But you know, I'm curious when we'll meet her. My guess is next episode.
I hope so. I hope they don't make us wait. That'd be awful.
Yeah.
Which for anybody curious, next episode is this Friday. And then each following episode will be released on Friday, starting next week. So, but yeah, so we're getting 2 episodes this week and then 1 episode a week, until we have all 8 episodes released. So
that's so exciting. It's really only 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I knew that, but just like, I don't know, hearing it again just makes me go like, wow, that's not much. But then again, I don't like it when shows, you know, just go on and don't end. I think 8 is probably really good, you know? Yeah. Just tell the story and be done.
Yeah. And season 2 is already in production. So,
oh gosh, of course it is. Because, you know, it's never going to end. Nothing ever ends. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of Watchmen lately, and I'm just like, yeah, nothing ever ends.
Yeah.
But I think that's all we've got to get to before we jump into the episode itself.
Well, just a heads up. At the end of the episode, Katie has given us an incredibly awesome matchup. So,
yes,
pretty jazzed to announce that at the end of the show. And again, like I just want to say this really quick because again, I want to be mindful of the fact that we may have some new folks listening to the show in light of Mandalorian, and I kind of hope that we do. In case you're wondering what types of matchup, so something that we do here in the Wampus Lair every other week is we either do a poll where we ask people a question, and obviously you weigh in on it, or we do a matchup where we take characters that have not actually fought in the Star Wars universe and pit them against one another. So we have a matchup like that at the end of the episode with 2 characters who have never met, but what would happen if they did and fought? So
who would win in a fight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it because it always makes me feel like 12 again, you know, like on the playground. Like, come on, who'd win a fight?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, it goes all the way back to when, you know, we first started the show, and I have such a deep love and appreciation for the old PlayStation game Masters of Terrakasi. And just the ability to like do a Mortal Kombat version of Star Wars was so cool. And I remember saying to Jason years ago, I mean, this was 8 years ago, Jason, like, wouldn't this be a fun episode where we just pitted some fun characters against each other? And Jason said, wouldn't it be a better idea if we did that as a segment each week? I was like, yes. So yeah, anyway, but, oh gosh, guys, The Mandalorian. Let me just start with this. Let me ask you this question just to start before we get into some of the nitty gritty.
Mm-hmm.
Where were your expectations going into it? And I don't care if they were high, low, or somewhere in between, but where were your expectations at, and how did you feel after finishing that first episode? You know, insofar as expectations. Katie, what about you? I know I know that for you, I don't think you were as excited about it as some of the other things coming out from Disney. Correct me if I'm wrong. So just curious, kind of for you, where you're standing with all that.
Yeah, no, you're right. I wasn't like terribly excited about the Mandalorian. I'm super hyped for Reylo, honestly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like out of all the Star Wars content coming out, I have my sights laser focused on episode 9. So the Mandalorian was just kind of accessory to me. Honestly, I could take it or leave it. But after seeing one episode, I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I'm in. Show me where we're going. I'm excited. I wouldn't say that I'm like completely hyped, I'm still, I don't know. I still feel like I need a little more, like where are we going with this? But I am definitely intrigued and way more bought in than I was before. Yeah. It did not it could have gone really wrong. You know what I mean? Like it could have gone really wrong and I could have been all like, this just is not the show for me. But that didn't happen. I'm actually really into it. So nice. Yeah. What about Jason? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was excited because of what we were getting from the trailer. More excited than I thought I would be, initially, even after the announcement. So after watching it, I'm like, okay, they're playing a slow burn here. And it's got me intrigued. I was ready for a fun adventure, but this has got me my, I don't know, what's the Force equivalent of Spidey senses tingling? I don't know. But this has got me going, oh, what is this? What is this really going to be? Because it's more than just a fun romp through space. They're setting a lot of interesting things up, and I am very intrigued. There are layers to what this is, and it is taking its time very deliberately. And when a show is confident enough in itself to take its time, especially the way that this first episode did, I expected something to be like bam, 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 fast paced action the whole way through with, the story getting thrown at us right from the get-go. But no, this is taking its time. It's building. There's a lot of foundational work being laid here, and it's taking its time, and it knows it's taking its time, but it's got a fuse to it that has yet to really been set off, even though we got a great action bit at the end of the episode. So I'm very intrigued to see where this show goes, because it knows it's more than what it's been showing to everybody, but I don't know what that is yet. So, that's kind of where I'm at, and it's got me very intrigued. It's hooked me as well. So,
yeah, and so I had I was excited. When I even asked, obviously, the two of you what were your expectations, in some ways, like, we're living in a Star Wars world where expectations can sometimes be our worst enemy. And so I tried to keep my expectations in check, even though everything I saw excited me. And this goes back to, back in Celebration Chicago, I was fortunate enough to get in on that panel, and I was with my friend Ben and his son. And we got to see, much of that clip where he first meets with Werner Herzog's character. The client? Is that his name?
Yeah, the client. That's all that they are calling him so far.
So we got to see the majority of that scene at Celebration Chicago back in April, and super, super jazzed about it. And everything I've seen since has just made me more excited. And just watching that episode, I was watching it by myself, except for my two cats were on my lap, and I love them both, and they're perfect. But as I'm watching it, several times, I just kind of kept saying out loud, I'm like, damn, this is awesome. And I just kept loving it more and more and more. And I will say, kind of the top of the episode, I felt like it was very there was a lot of fan service in there, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I think, for some folks, fan service is said with kind of this, disparaging quip to it. But I mean that genuinely. I do feel that there was some fan service, right? We get a gong droid, we get the droid that comes out with the eye socket from Return of the Jedi. We get a lot of this stuff that tells us, hey, this is Star Wars. And like, and I liked it, but there almost got to the point where I was like, okay, I get it. Like, I know it's Star Wars. And then it just stopped, and all of a sudden it became its own thing. It became its own story, which to me was like, man, this was perfect. It was like this perfect blend of honoring what's come before and then saying, like, this is our own story. This is going to be its own story now, right? So, and granted, like, this is coming off of a 40-minute episode, but that's what I really liked about it, is it felt so rooted in the DNA of Star Wars, and yet, you know, halfway through the episode, it did become its own thing. So I really liked that.
Yeah, no, it was really, really cool. And honestly, you know, while as much as, you know, I'm in love with, not in love, but really fascinated by Werner Herzog's character, the Client. When I realized that this show was taking a direction I didn't expect was when he left that meeting and went down to the Mando Underground. And
yes,
the Forge. That was cool.
Yes.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
What did you like about it?
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, honestly, the idea that I get is that it's, you know, it's sort of secretive because he kind of looks over his shoulder before he goes inside, and then it's, you know, down these stairs and a bunch of dark tunnels and everything, and I'm like, oh, what is this? You know, is this just it's like almost a refugee camp for but everyone's a Mandalorian. You know, they've all got the helmets and everything. I think I saw some helmets that were, you know, vaguely the owl design from Bo-Katan's group. You know, they kind of looked vaguely like that. I'd have to go back and take a look. I'm not very well versed in Mando, but
hey, Boba.
Then what? Eat it so heat. That's probably more Huttese than anything. But anyways, but then the Forge, ladies and gentlemen.
That was so cool.
Yeah.
The Forge Master, I don't think she's has a name yet, but she had a ridiculously awesome helmet.
I know, it's like the little horn.
Yeah.
Ah!
And, you know,
And it looked like a Spartan helmet. You know, the visor looked like a Spartan helmet. It was so awesome.
Yeah. That's like, and I'm just gonna literally jump off your back off of that, Jason, because that's exactly what I loved about that moment so much too. Is, you know, we saw a picture of the forging Mandalorian before the show even started. And, you know, I saw people speculating like, oh, I bet you this is like a flashback to the old days of Mandalore. It's like something from the Old Republic or early Old Republic. I mean, you know how Star Wars fans are. And I was just like, whatever. It just looks cool. Like, I'm excited to see what it is. And I love what it is. I love that it's its own thing. It's not that. But it is, you know, like there's something ancient and mythical about these Mandalorians. And I love, like you said, Jason, that because that's the first thing I thought too. Is it looks like it's from Sparta, and right, we know again from our history, like Sparta was a warrior culture, right? Like people grew up and served. That was what gave you value, was your ability to be a warrior and to fight. So, and we know from both Legends canon and even what's been implied through the Clone Wars episodes that the old cultural history of Mandalore is one of a warrior culture. So again, like that's to me like such cool Star Wars of like giving an homage to touching something from actual human history, but making it something Star Wars, right? So like you see that forger and you think of this ancient Spartan race, this culture of warriors, and that's exactly what the Mandalorians are. They're this warrior culture. I mean, before the days of, oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Satine's days, you know?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it was so cool because it immediately made me feel like I was connected to something ancient about these Mandalorians. And so cool that it is like this refuge. So here's a question for you two. Do you think that all of these Mandalorians here, which by the way, we get a cool term too, the foundlings, right?
Yeah.
Referring to obviously people that are found and like
brought into, you know, the Mando culture.
Right. And obviously the Mandalorian himself, you know, I was a foundling, you know, right? And it's kind of cool too, because like the Beskar he brings that's then forged into this, what's it?
Pauldron.
Pauldron. Thank you.
Yep.
There's obviously going to be a little bit of leftover Beskar, and she implies that it can be used towards another foundling, and he willingly gives that up, like offers that up. I was a foundling. I want to help other foundlings. So do you think then the way that they claim it with a name like that, foundlings, do you think that all the folks in this refugee, I don't want to call it a refugee camp, I don't know if it's that, but this tribe, do you think that they are all Mandalorians by blood, or do you think any of them could just be, I want to be Mandalorian? What do you two think? What are you thinking about that?
I think it's probably, like 50-50, something like that. I don't think he would have said I was a foundling if she was also a foundling. You know what I mean? He probably would have said we were all foundlings once or something like that, That's just the feeling I get from how the scene's written.
Yeah, I agree. It does seem to me like this is probably a 50-50 or 60-40 in favor of true Mando to foundling. But it is a ragtag group is what it looks like, because everyone, obviously we kind of have the idea from other sources is that Mandalorians very often will customize their own armor, but everyone's got like all these slightly different variations and designs and everything like that. It looks a bit ragtag, and obviously they're, it's underground, so it gives the impression that it's, not necessarily legit, maybe. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but it does have the appearance of being ragtag, and I would think that, the makeup of the group is a ragtag mix of true and foundling.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I do like this idea that they seem to be playing with. I don't know if they're interested in fleshing it out, but it's certainly in there. This idea of heritage is certainly being played with in the show. I really liked the scene where the old cowboy, whose name I can't remember, the one who has spoken. Do you guys remember his name?
It's hold on. I've got
Jason's got it. Jason's got it.
Quill, I think is how
Quill?
it's pronounced. Yeah,
Okay.
Kuiil for those who are wondering.
I'll call him Quill. I was really intrigued when the Mandalorian couldn't ride the blurg, couldn't tame it.
Yes.
And then Quill said, "What? You're Mandalorian. Your ancestors rode the great mythosaur," which that's an awesome name.
Yeah,
I want to be a mythosaur. I don't know what it is, but I want one.
I think that's what Boba Fett rides in the holiday special.
Oh my god, the
comic.
big dinosaur! Oh my god,
I think that's what that is. No! The mythosaur is the skull. That's the Mando, the Mando symbol. That's the mythosaur, is the skull symbol.
Yes,
hold on.
You are right. It is. They are a species from Mandalore, the Mythosaurus. Oh yeah, it's just a big beast. I don't know if it is. Let's see. Sorry, Royce,
I love this.
Time.
The Google.
Yeah. Yes.
To the Google. The Wikipedia.
Blah blah blah. Yeah. No, I don't know that
no,
it is.
The mythosaur.
It's fine.
The mythosaur skull is the Mandalorian symbol.
Is. The skull of the mythosaur became the symbol of the Mandalore.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all learning here in the Wampa's Lair today.
Yes.
We're all going to school.
Yeah.
That's the mythosaur.
That's awesome. Okay, so that makes sense now. That's why it's the Mando symbol. Yeah, no, your ancestors rode the great mythosaur.
That's awesome.
I just I was intrigued by how that seemed to reach him, because he obviously, I don't want to say obviously, but there is something that lingers in him of his parents. He feels that loss.
Yes.
He flashes back to his parents at least twice in this episode. And the fact that he's a foundling, we can assume that he never saw his parents again after that.
And he's not actually a Mandalorian, by blood. Sure. And so his ancestors technically wouldn't have ridden the Great Mythosaur, but it still reaches him because he has been, found and adopted by the Mando culture.
That's kind of the point. Yeah, he has been adopted into this culture, so they are his ancestors. The Force. I don't think the Force cares about blood. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think. Yeah, they are his spiritual ancestors. This is what he's been taught. This is what he knows. And if they could do it, he can do it.
And how do we know that he's not Mandalorian? Just
Yeah.
Right? Like that.
Point
there's
taken.
nothing there to say that he's not. Right? Like, so who knows? They could be, right? Like I didn't know, right? We saw in the clips of that particular flashback from some of the footage we've gotten before the show premiered that obviously there's, the battle, the separatist battleships, there's clone super battle droids. I didn't see those in any of the clips there. I feel like we're going to revisit this flashback, probably more pronounced. But there's no reason to say, because we know the state of Mandalore during the Clone Wars, right? We have that. We have that history. There's no reason to think that maybe there's like a diaspora during that period, right? Of people displeased with the way Mandalore was going. The diaspora that may be affected by Maul's rising on Mandalore, which we haven't gotten the fullness of that story yet until February. So who knows what, who's to say that he's not Mandalorian? There could have been some sort of diaspora that caused kind of this, this emigration off of Mandalore by certain Mandalorians. So who knows that he's not Mandalorian by blood? I don't think there's anything there to say one way or the other. The thing I love about the flashbacks, one is how it is just coupled with this moment, like where he's trying to fit in, right? He wants to be full Mandalorian, and in the episode even begins with the bullies who are taunting him. Is that even Beskar armor? And he slashes it, which to me implies that it's probably not, like the way it's easily marked up like that. Like I feel like a knife couldn't do that to Beskar. I don't know. I could be wrong. But then as it's being, as Pauldron's being molded, and the way the music swells in that moment too, when she places it on him. This is him becoming who he thinks he wants to be, or who he thinks he's supposed to be, right? Which to me is that's the stuff I love in Star Wars, is this idea of characters finding themselves, and he's trying to find himself within his own quote unquote tribe, right? So like this is a scene of becoming for him that's also augmented with what he lost. And I love the way that plays together. And it also immediately made me think of the beginning of Rogue One with Jyn having to go into hiding. And she's a victim of what she loses, right? So like this is a theme we've seen, in a recent Star Wars story. So I like that theme being revisited. And I texted a tiny bit before we were recording tonight with our friend Jim Urso, Jim Kinkley. And of course, like Jim was like, "Oh yeah, definitely it's Jyn." And I was like, "All right, if it goes by the Jyn expert, like I can ride with it." So but no, it's a really really cool, powerful scene of trying to come into one's own, and what a common theme in Star Wars too, of people assuming they know what they're supposed to be, right? Like Kylo Ren is a character very much like that, trying to figure out what he thinks he's supposed to be. Han Solo is that character in the movie Solo, like fighting against the good guy that he is, right? So there's always characters who think that what they're doing is what they're supposed to be, even if it's not. And I'm not, obviously we've had one episode, but there's clearly something very simply stated in that scene of this is the Mandalorian among Mandalorians trying to become a full Mandalorian, So,
No, it's a very intriguing thing, and obviously we're going to get more into it. But
also real quick, just thinking of like how that even connects with like Darth Vader. In the story of Anakin, as he loses limbs, well, granted, he really only loses one, but, as he starts to become more machine than man, right, he becomes less and less vulnerable. He becomes less and less of the good guy. He tries to cover himself up. He literally becomes a walking coffin in Revenge of the Sith. Here you have the Mandalorian who he wants better armor. This is obviously a character who's very much trying to be solitary. He's trying to, isolate himself. And I like that the way that's even played out in the episode. I love it at the beginning with the first bounty he has. I don't know the character's name, the blue gill guy. And, as he's just rattling off these questions at the Mandalorian when they're on the ship, and he's just ignoring him. And the thing that immediately made me think of was those royal guards in England, right? The guys with the big puffy hats and the red uniforms. I can't remember the actual names of those British guards. But right, like it's like a thing when you're in London that you like yell at them and you like get up in their face because they don't react. And that's just what I was thinking of as the Mandalorian is basically just ignoring this guy. And what it told me in that moment about his character, though, is that this is a guy who does have a strong sense of discipline, right? Like he's a very disciplined individual. So yeah, I even like those little moments.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's someone who doesn't speak very much and lets his appearance speak for him. But the question is, what's really going on underneath that helmet? And I think we're going to begin to find out, throughout these episodes, who's really under the helmet, who's really behind that visor. Because right now it is just the Mandalorian, even to us, there's no details. Yeah. And I'm very intrigued by who's under there because, well,
Pedro
perhaps
Pascal.
we should just. Yes, but
it's not that much of a mystery, Jason.
In story, Carl. Dear Lord,
suspend your disbelief, Carl.
Sorry, Carl, you're a fool.
Yes, Carl, you're a fool.
Can we talk about IG-11? Can we, please?
Yes, go
I'm
for
begging.
it, Katie. Go for it.
Shift those hips, Katie. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, for serious though. He just shows up walking like that, just turning all around like crazy, just the way he moves. I have a problem, okay? I have a problem. I've always been very attracted to movement. I always have, the way. And when things move in odd or different, unexpected ways, I find that very intriguing and very attractive. I mean, you can see that with like Darth Maul, just the way he does all those like backflips and stuff,
Yeah.
like he moves in ways that, you have to train to like get up there. This is all my very long way of saying I am very attracted to a droid for very specific reasons. Goodness gracious me. You guys, I really like this droid. I really like his rapport with the Mandalorian, how they established that rapport very quickly. I don't know. I was very intrigued by their relationship. And I guess maybe the point is that we were supposed to like be really excited to see these guys get along. But then he gets shot in the head. So is that over? Was it supposed to be like ooh, look, they could have been friends, but the Mandalorian killed him, or is he coming back? What do you think?
I mean, we've seen R2 get blasted by a TIE fighter and be put back together. So it would not surprise me if. I'm watching this episode with the subtitles on and it on mute, and he literally just did his thing where the legs like spun completely around as he took a step towards the Mandalorian. Such a weird and fascinating movement on that droid. But you're right. Anyways,
I know.
And so it wouldn't surprise me if they put him back together, and especially if when he finds out what the asset is and maybe decides that he doesn't want to do what he was hired to do with it. I don't know. He might, put the droid back together for additional security, additional, guns to get it back or to figure out what to do with this. I don't know. I could see that getting put back together, but it could also be something where we just get, IG-11B shows up, IG-88 was supposed to have had 4 versions of himself in the Legends continuity, so who knows?
I hope he's still alive.
Yeah, no, I with the way that they've marketed it, and it's also he's being voiced by
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, Taika Waititi. Like they're not going to bring him in for an episode. You know what I mean? Like it just seems fair.
Okay.
I guess they could. I mean, he's also a director, but yeah, I really think that either the Mandalorian specifically will reprogram IG-11 and fix him up, or Quill will. Right?
That'd
like
be cool.
I could see either one of them doing it. So I don't think that this is going to be our only IG-11 exposure. But Yeah, and I sincerely hope not, too. Like, I'd be really bummed if that's all we get to see of him.
They had such good banter, and I liked that it was different because, honestly, I've gotten a little tired of, here's our straight-laced human pilot. Not straight-laced, but, here's the straight man, the everyman.
Yes.
And the sarcastic droid, the Cassian and K2, Lando and L3. You know what I mean? I've gotten a little tired of that, and I thought that this was different. It was, they rub up against each other kind of the wrong way, and yet, they fall into step very easily, which I don't know. I thought that was so intriguing.
Yeah.
Beginning self-destruct countdown.
I was like, no, stop it. Just wait. Please let me have 2 minutes. Just stop. It's like I've known you for 2 minutes now, and you've tried to self-destruct 3 times. Can you just hang on? Goodness, gosh. Okay. I was gonna say I was very confused. I don't know. Maybe I just missed something. Maybe you guys can help me out. Okay, guys, help me out here. So the Mandalorian gets this commission, right? And Dr. Pershing, that the one guy working for the client, he's very adamant that he wants the asset alive. When it's all like, well, if you bring in the asset dead, we'll give you a reduced rate. And Dr. Pershing's like, well, wait, what? No, he wants it alive. So I thought the whole point was that we really want the Baby Yoda alive. Mm-hmm. But then IG-11 comes in and is like, no, they were quite specific. They want it dead. But I thought they were working for the same people. I thought they're both parts of the guild. What's going on there? I'm confused.
Well, I think they're both parts of the guild.
Okay.
But they may. My reading of the situation is that they may not have been hired by the same person.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm gathering as well, is that they had different employers.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to split the commission then if they have different employers? You know what I mean?
They don't necessarily know
that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
They both show up, but they've got different goals with the asset, the Baby Yoda, what they've been told, and they may not know, they may not realize that somebody else is after the same thing until they take it back, if they do.
But they were like, let's split the bounty. How do you split the bounty? Because you can't turn it into both sets of clients.
Right.
You can, right. I guess they would have talked about it later and been like, well, this person's offering more, so we'll give it to them and split that bounty. I don't know. Why would you only take half a bounty when you could get the whole bounty given it to someone? I don't know. I don't know. But
that's the thing, is that, they probably assume they're working for the same person, but until they actually start leaving and to go back and collect, that's probably when they would have been like, wait, where are you going? Who are you taking it to? That's probably when that would have happened, is my guess. Mm-hmm. So, and yeah, let's talk about this. It's a Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
How many of you, by show of hands, believe this is Force sensitive?
Oh, I don't know. I can't say that I care.
Yeah.
Whether or not. Yeah.
Same here. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
But else, why else would Dr. Pershing want this for experiments?
It could just
be only other two rare species.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
True, but the only 2 other members of the species that we've seen were on the freaking Jedi Council.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
That doesn't mean that they all are. I don't know. Yeah,
I understand, but
they very well could be. The thing I liked about it, though, is, and I got this as I watched through the second time, and obviously, it's implied there at the end when the thing opens up and you hear Mandalorian say, it's supposed to be 50 years old. I didn't realize that the client says that earlier when he's hiring the Mando, that it's he's 50 years old, and I love that IG-11 points out that every species ages differently, and. Of course, I'm sorry, I'm going to sidetrack for a second, but it made me think of Solo, a Star Wars story. And the idea that, Chewbacca, even though he's 190 years old, maybe he's a little bit immature, though. And it's not to say, it's not a way of, shaming Chewbacca. I love Chewbacca. But he does have, a bit of a brash recklessness of, kind of like a teenager in some ways. The way he,
Yeah.
he pouts and gets cranky and stuff, and it just
he has to win. He has to win like a stupid board game, or he'll rip your arms off. Right?
Right. Like it's something
No,
very,
you're right.
very juvenile. So I don't know. It immediately made me think of like Chewbacca and like maybe at 190 years old, Chewbacca is basically like a 17-year-old. You know what I mean? I mean, if these things can live to be 800 years old, I mean it's right. That's what we do with dogs all the time. Like, oh, my dog turned 6 today, but it's really like 37 or whatever, right? Like, do the quick math, and so I liked that kind of, because it just immediately made me think of Chewbacca as well. So,
Nice.
But yeah, no, I stayed off of like social media today until I was able to watch it, because I really wanted to try to. I woke up early today and I kind of wanted to try to watch it before work, but the app wasn't working great this morning, which I understand. So I was like, well, the heck with it. I'll watch it when I get home. And I'm glad that I made the time to wait too, because I got to sit down, really enjoy it, really savor it, and then not have to run off to work. I had a friend though, message me and just said like, just heads up, the ending is awesome, and it's a huge shocker. And I'm like, I'm fine with that, because it just like that made me so amped for what's going to happen at the end, and it is not what I expected at all. Like,
really,
I had all these, I guess, just different expectations, and like that just totally threw me through a loop, and I thought it was awesome.
I mean, the all the buzz coming out about it, even ahead of time, was that there would be a big shock in this first episode, and I was waiting for it the whole time. And then, like, freaking Baby Yoda shows up in the last 2 seconds, and I'm like, oh, this was unexpected.
Yeah,
and I mean, cute as hell, right?
Right.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
And the final shot where he's like reaching his finger out towards the baby, and the little hand starts coming up and reaching for him, and they just, iris out there. I'm like, oh, thank you for that. That's a great picture. But it was a shock, not because it was necessarily outrageous or a big reveal of something or someone that we should recognize, but it was just like, it seemed to come out of nowhere with what we had already gotten from the series, from the episode. It was just like, oh, there were 36 goons guarding a baby carriage.
Yeah.
And at least an ex-Imperial and his, pet doctor are after it. And I'm forgetting the actor's name who plays the doctor, but he plays a great, like, weird, creepy, stooge.
Dr. Pershing?
Yeah, Dr. Pershing.
Yeah.
Guy who, Omid, I've got the IMDb up. It's Omid Abtahi. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but yeah, I've seen him in something else. I don't remember what, but he plays a great, kind of weird, creepy guy. So I don't want him getting his hands on this Baby Yoda.
Well, it's not, I thought it was cool that he that he has the science outfit on that like Galen Erso's people have in Rogue One.
Right.
I thought that was
That's
really
so
cool.
good.
Like there's that science division of the Empire. And also, really quick, while we're in that scene with those former Imperials, I also really like that. I love the look of the stormtroopers actually in that scene. And the thing I like about them is, they're very dirty. And I don't know if you two noticed this, but they look really like malnourished to me. Like even though they're in armor, they look skinny, like extra skinny or something.
Gauntlets.
Like as if, they really are like, they have really fallen from their glory days, right? Like they are not pristine and clean. They are, like these twinky little, little stormtroopers that really aren't threatening at all.
They need to drink their milk. They did not drink their milk.
No, they didn't. The client has all of that. He seems to be living just fine. Stormtroopers, not so much. So
Yeah. This is how many years after Return of the Jedi?
I believe it's 3 to 5. I don't recall exactly.
Yeah, something like that. It hasn't. What I'm getting at is that it hasn't been that long.
Yeah, after
No.
Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. Yeah, have they given us that hard number? I feel like they have.
They have, and I don't remember where. I'm looking for it right now.
I don't know why, but I wanted to say 8 years. But I'm probably confusing that with Kenobi's supposed to be 8 years after Revenge of the Sith. So maybe I'm confusing.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's been that long. And so, you can still kind of feel the Empire, but they're definitely like waning is the thing.
Yes. They're literally starving.
I because, we look at the First Order and
okay, here we go. 5 years after the fall of the Empire.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was somewhere around there. But so it's in the sequel trilogy, it's really easy to like look at the First Order and kind of feel like the Empire never left. But that's not. This series is reminding me that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah.
Where the Empire did leave, and if this is the best the Empire can do is these like really dirty stormtroopers hiding in a basement, then people are gonna feel like the Empire is just an evil that. It's gone. It's not even relevant anymore, Like, and then that's why the First Order is able to be such a shock,
Yeah. And even right at the top of the episode, right, when the Mando brings his money to what's Carl Weathers' character's name?
I don't remember.
It is Grief Karga.
Okay, it is. Okay, so Grief Karga.
That's a great name, by the way.
I know, it's very Star Wars.
Yeah.
But his initial payment is in Imperial script, and he's like, "This is no good." And he even says, "Oh no, like it's still taken." He goes, "I don't know if you've heard, but the Empire's gone," or something, right? Like he makes it pretty blatant. Like the Empire's a thing of the past,
Yeah.
Republic credits are no good out here. I need something more real.
More real. Yeah, right. Then he gives him calamari something or another, and it's like
script.
Yeah, it's like wet and goopy a little bit, and I'm like, of course the Mon Cala folks have like wet money. It's
oh boy.
I was going to say something. Oh, I was going to circle back to Baby Yoda and Carl talking about how surprised he was. And I'm all like, funny, you should say that. Because, like, here's the thing. I saw this coming a while ago for no other reason than because I've seen a lot of Westerns. Just like I've seen a lot of Westerns, okay?
Yeah.
Like a lot of Western movies. Which is basically what happens when you marry a guy who is just like obsessed with old samurai movies and old ninja movies and old kung fu movies. Like I've seen things I never thought I would see until I met my beloved, who's just so wonderful. I'll go off about that, honestly. And so, well, it all started with The Matrix, basically. And it's just like, if you like The Matrix, you'll like all these old kung fu movies. And if you like all these old kung fu movies, you'll like these old samurai movies. And by the way, what's the difference between a samurai movie and a Western? There is none. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but all the old Westerns are just, a lot of old Westerns were just copies of old samurai movies.
Yeah.
Where they were like, white American audiences won't watch old samurai movies. So if you just take those same plots, those same characters, recast them as cowboys instead of samurai, exactly. So, which is like the most Dave Filoni thing in the world, by the way. It does not surprise me at all that Dave Filoni would have this like love for old cowboy movies, old Westerns, and old samurai movies. Well, especially because when Twin Sons came out, that episode of Rebels, with Maul and Kenobi finally facing off, Dave Filoni just could not shut up about the fact that he loves the movie Seven Samurai.
Yeah. And
that he based the final Kenobi and Maul scene off of one of the most famous scenes in Seven Samurai.
Which is the inspiration behind the Magnificent Seven Western.
Exactly. So, yeah, when I saw The Mandalorian and I saw that it had this like Western feel, I was like, I'm pretty sure what they're doing with The Mandalorian is Lone Wolf and Cub, which if you know anything at all about samurai movies, you're very familiar with Lone Wolf and Cub. It's one of the most popular stories in old Japanese media. It's started as a manga series, and it sold like 8 million copies back in the 70s, which is just, you know what I mean? That's insane. And it's been made into like several adaptations, several movies, and it's about an assassin for hire, you know, looking after his young 3-year-old son. He's on the road, you know, just like the Mandalorian, taking whatever jobs he can, you know, for killing for a price.
Yeah.
And looking after this young child. And I don't know why, when I first got wind of The Mandalorian, I was like, oh, it's Lone Wolf and Cub. He's going to be looking after a little kid. And I remember my beloved was just all like, why that's not anywhere in the marketing? And I'm like, I don't know. I just feel it. I could just feel it in my waters. I just knew. I just like.
And lo and behold, Lone Wolf has found his cub.
Exactly. I have a feeling that little baby Yoda is going to be sticking around for a while. It's going to be more than just a one episode kind of thing. Because how do you make a tough character like that instantly sympathetic? Well, you give them a kid to look after.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you automatically root for that person no matter how awful they are.
Right.
You know, that's the thing in like Lone Wolf and Cub. It's just all like, well, this guy's like just killing people left and right, but he's got a baby strapped to his back. So you're rooting for him no matter what, because you want him to protect this child, you know?
That's so cool. What a great point. Yeah. And even in that last shot, you know, the wide angle shot of him, and the way he like kind of like Gucci goos with his little finger to it. Like there is something, you know, there is something like oddly affectionate about that. So yeah, I'm so glad that you told us about that. I mean, you were messaging us about it earlier, and we were just like, wait, save it for the show. We want to be surprised.
Exactly.
That's so cool. But can I just like piggyback off that point though, Katie, about, you know, him being a sympathetic character, because there's one other part of the show though that makes me think of him. There is a little bit more humility to him than I would have expected in the first episode, and that comes when he's attacked by the blurgs. Like he's about to die. like he's in trouble. Like they get the best of him, and then in comes Quill and saves him, and he says thank you. And then he, you know, he's humbled again by his initial inability to ride the blurg, and then we see him trying to pay Quill, like, to thank him for his help, and he won't take the money. So like there is these, even just those little flashes, you know. I was expecting, especially just in episode 1, like nothing but the tough guy, you know, the brazen, I can't use words here clearly, but you know, just kind of like the tough guy, and yet we get these little moments of him not being so tough, and I really like that. And even like, and I feel like I thought we were gonna get that right at the top of the episode when he comes in and like breaks up the bullies. And, you know, I don't, you know, I mean, I'm not a fan of violence, but I always love it in a good story when the bullies get their asses kicked. Like that's what they deserve. So like, I love that these guys, they don't seem to be other bounty hunters, right? They're literally like, they're interested in cutting his body up and selling it for parts. Like, I mean, they're pretty terrible bullies. So when the Mandalorian just kind of beats the crap out of him, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. But then it's like, yup, I got a bounty on you though. Like, so immediately I was like, wow, like that's so nice of him. He cares about the little guy. It's like, no, he doesn't.
No, he really
he doesn't care.
Nope.
He's got a job to do, Carl.
Right. Yeah. Try not to upset him.
Oh my goodness. That was a fun scene, and he did more than just, you know, beat him up. It like the Quarren is he's in 2 pieces now. That was impressive and disgusting all at the same time.
Yeah. Well, and real quick too, I feel like pretty much all the footage, barring a few things that we've seen so far, are from this episode, which I actually kind of like. You know, I mean, obviously Cara Dune stuff, she's not been introduced yet. But that's kind of it, you know, except in like random shots of speeder bikes. But pretty much any sort of substantial stuff we've seen from the footage, trailers and pre-release footage, was from this episode, which is kind of cool because it's like,
it's like 80% of the stuff is from this episode.
Yeah. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah. I want to talk about, we're talking about things that like endear us towards this main character and remind us that he's like actually human under there and we're rooting for him. What I really liked was when he tamed the blurg. Well, because, at first he just tries to like control it. He just jumps up on its back and, it bucks him, it tosses him off. But then like, calming it and, approaching it carefully, that's, what makes the blurg like, okay, you can ride me. It reminded me of, symbiotes, life forms living together, mutual advantage. That's Star Wars, you guys. I don't know. I love it when Star Wars reminds me that it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
not in like a, oh, hey, look, we have dudes frozen in carbonite. You remember that from Star Wars, right? No, I like it when it reminds me that its themes, its core essence is Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that point. And it made me think of Anakin with the Reek in Attack of the Clones.
Right.
The way he does. But even, there's something when Kanan's training Ezra, something with, I think, the Loth Cats or something. And he's, the episode where he's trying to teach Ezra how to connect to something. So, yeah, but gosh, I just love that perfect analogy, Katie, of it's rather than control, it's about harmony.
Harmony, living together for mutual advantage.
Thank you, Qui-Gon.
Yes, right. Thank you, Qui-Gon, for teaching us everything we needed to know. We just weren't listening.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say just another little Mando and Quill moment because I loved every second that Quill was on the screen. And the reason I love Quill is because, again, it's just he's a very archetypal character of a guide. I don't want to say mentor because he's not really a mentor. Not yet, anyway. Maybe he'll become one. But he is the guide, right? He's the one who's aiding our character in his quest right off the bat. And does seem to possess some sense of wisdom. I mean, right, we're all going to be saying, I have spoken.
Yeah.
That's the phrase of a wise man, or a wise person, right? There is just that quip to him. But with the scene, and I can't wait for more of these scenes. I feel like we're going to get a lot of them because these are like Carl Leclerc's favorite moments of Star Wars, which they equate to balcony scenes. I hope we'll get a balcony scene. I'm praying. But the scene of them just sitting in his hut, and having communion together in the sense of just talking, and. It honestly reminded me a lot. Again, it reminded me of the Battle for Endor. Ewoks, the Battle of Endor. I don't remember the character's name who wears glasses. It's the guy from the diabetes commercials. But when he allows Wicket and what is the main character's name in the Ewok movies? The little girl. Do you two know? People are screaming at us right now. Is Sila, I don't know, something with a C. Anyway, but the way he welcomes them in, it just reminded me very much of that. There was also a fantasy feel to it as well. I felt like this was the Hobbit being invited in or something. I don't know. I'm not a big Hobbit person, so it could be there. That might not be the best analogy, but it just makes me think of. And he is a littler. I mean, he's an Ugnaught, so he's a smaller creature. He's a smaller species with this intimidating bounty hunter, and he just welcomes him into his home. Right, and what is Quill's biggest concern? He just wants the peace to be restored to his planet. There's to me, there's an inherent goodness to who Quill is as a character. He doesn't care about money. He doesn't, what does he want from the Mando? Oh, just half of his take, aka I'd like to take one of the blurgs to domesticize and use for those purposes. I don't want your money because I trust that if the stories are true about you Mandalorians, the violence that exists on my planet now will go away. And that's all I want is peace to be restored. And I'm like, oh man, I love Quill. He's great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's good. He is very good, and I have spoken. That's not only is that like sort of the wise man saying, but it's also like I'm done talking about the subject, and so are you. Yep. So it's like no, but we're done. That's the end of the discussion, and you're going to listen to me. And he's old enough that he doesn't care if the Mandalorian has a problem with it or not. He's like, nope. I have spoken. That is it.
Yes. I'm done. Bye.
Yeah. So,
and there's just such a dignity to that phrase. I have spoken. Right. Like,
right.
This is my word, and I stand by it. Right. Like, there's just this ancient, integrity to who he is. Right.
Yeah.
He stands by what he says. And how can you not get behind someone like that? Like, that's cool. There's an integrity to him that's attractive.
Yeah. And the weird thing about it is that the Mandalorian just sort of accepts it and he doesn't question it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Fine. We'll go with that. So, if he was a different kind of character, he would push back, be like, why? And, but he doesn't. He's like, he's either knows that he's completely out of his element and he'll take the help he can get, or he's a more mature and deferential character than some of the other heroes that we've had, in our other Star Wars stories. So,
yep.
I'm still figuring out which, but
yeah.
There's one more thing, and then I'm out. Honestly, one more thing I got to talk about because I have to talk about this. I have to. If I don't, no one else will. Honestly. Okay. One, I really hope that the baby Yoda is in fact a baby Yaddle. Just please, can it just be a little girl Yoda? You know what I mean? Like, please, I really want that. I don't know why. It's oddly important to me. Just make it happen.
Yeah.
And then with that in mind, where are all the ladies? Please, can there be more ladies in this show? Like Star Wars, I thought we were past this. I mean, there was the one Mandalorian, woman, the forger. You know what I mean? But then, there was no reason why, the blue bounty guy or any of the people in the pub could have been women. That speeder driver who gets eaten on the ice, no reason he couldn't have been a woman. No reason Grief or the client or the doctor or Quill couldn't have been women. You know what I mean? We got 12 new characters in this episode, just living their lives, and none of them were women. Where are all the women? Star Wars. I really, really thought we were past this, but apparently not. So yeah, maybe at least little baby Yoda could be a baby Yaddle. If not, just show me more women in the background, living their lives, driving their speeders, hanging out in pubs. I don't care. Just please, Star Wars. All right.
Yeah.
All right. No, I just had to say it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I guess the hope could be it was just the first episode, so maybe that's going to change. I mean, obviously, Cara Dune is going to be a central character to the story, but to your point, Katie, one character is not enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope so too.
I'm looking at the IMDb for this show, and there's there's a decent amount of women in the cast. I don't know how prevalent they're going to be, sure. But it's I'm like, okay. But yeah, it is an interesting point. There was a lot of testosterone.
Yeah.
In this episode.
So the people guarding the little baby Yaddle. I'm just going to start calling her Baby Yaddle until I'm proven wrong. Baby Yaddle. the Nikto, those aliens, some of them looked like they might have been kind of feminine, but if that's the strongest thing I can say, that's not great. I just
I've got this thing going on loop, as we're talking, just in the background. And I've seen, there's a lot of, lady characters in the background too, in especially when you get to the Mandalorian's home planet, not necessarily the first planet they're on, but as they get off that planet, there's a lot of, lady characters. There's some Twi'leks and other, I'm pretty sure the Rhodian that we saw in the bar where he was getting the job was a woman.
Okay.
But,
right.
I don't know. It's hard to tell with an alien that I'm not overly familiar with.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, there. I agree. A little bit more would be important.
Cool. It'd be cool. Yep.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Last thing I got to mention, and I don't have a lot to say yet because I haven't had time to sit with it, is the music. I'm a fan of the music quite a bit in this show. So,
Ludwig Göransson, is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Ludwig.
Ludwig, yeah. He's done some, like, I don't know a ton of his music, but he's done some really eclectic stuff in recent years. Like, he did the soundtrack for Black Panther. He did, my favorite thing he's done, mainly because I like these movies so much, is he did the scores for the 2 Creed movies that came out recently. I love the way he honored the music of the old Rocky films, but also made it new. He's very diverse in his musical styles, and I don't know if the two of you got a chance to listen to this, but they had this on Coffee with Kenobi from a panel that Disney did, where they had all the creators for the show, and specifically Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni had, obviously lots of great things to say, and they talked a little bit about the music and made the point about how they wanted to try something new and different. And Dave Filoni mentions how that was something important to George even back in the Clone Wars. So they were really excited for what, Ludwig was providing, and I think so too. So it sounds like each week they're probably going to release like chapter music. So like it's like I use Spotify. On Spotify, it's just the Mandalorian Chapter 1 original score, and a lot of the music is very like action-based music, which is not my favorite kind of Star Wars music. I love like the melodies and the sweet songs. Like I'm an Across the Stars and Yoda's theme kind of person. So, but there are some it sounds like we are getting a Mandalorian theme that's really cool. But at the same time, like he's really playing with, like a very, listen to that. Like,
ooh.
This track is called Hey Mando. So
Oh, I love that.
yeah, but like it sounds like like an old flute or something,
Yeah, like an ethnic tribal flute,
exactly,
of some sort. Yeah. It's really cool.
So yeah, I'm excited to sit down and listen to this more.
While we were sitting here, I bought the thing off of iTunes for my iPod. So yeah.
Dude, get Spotify. I'm so against I don't get why people buy an album. Like, you could spend $10 a month and get everything you ever want all the time on Spotify. It's so much better, and you can download things so you don't have to worry about internet connection. I don't want to be a jerk. I don't get paying for one album when you can have all the albums. So I should be a salesperson for Spotify because I love it so much, and I think everything else is obsolete compared to it. So that's my very strong opinion. So
Carl loves Spotify the same way I love robots who move in weird ways. Yeah. We all have our thing, okay? We all have our thing.
Jason, I can go from 1 second listening to something as cool as the Mandalorian score, which just came out today. Wow, Spotify works really slow when I'm using GarageBand, so maybe that's one downside. But, I can just jump between tracks like it's nothing. Like, oh, you want to listen to Mando? Oh, but what if you want something also great? Like this. I don't know. Dude. It's just... What do you know? Anakin singing this to Padme.
He is singing it to Padme.
Yeah, on that refugee ship. Sorry.
It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years since I've seen her, Master.
She's been so far away.
I thought about her every day for 10 years, and she's forgotten me completely. She's happy.
But then Padme comes back and she's like, I loved you all along and I missed you.
Yes.
And I forgive you for being away for far too long.
Oh, man.
You needed to hear her say that she loves him. And she loved him all along. Oh, that's the perfect song for Attack of the Clones, you guys.
Yes. Oh. Gosh, I didn't think I could love that movie more. Just did,
right? Oh my gosh. I need to make an Attack of the Clones, Nickelback, AMV. That's the next thing that needs to happen.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, Jason. I didn't mean to like jump down here. That's awesome that you bought it, because also those things are important too, because when you purchase the album, it makes them want to keep making the albums. So
yeah,
good on you.
And honestly, I'm still a bit of a Luddite when it comes to digital music. I still have a separate iPod. I don't listen to all my podcasts on my phone. You know.
Wow.
So, yeah. And that's probably why, you know, more than anything, is I still use an iPod. But my iTunes library is just so freaking big, because there's a lot of CDs that I got from the library that managed to get ripped and put on my iTunes back in the day. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. You know who also has all those albums? Spotify. Just letting you know.
If you were here, I'd throw my pen at you.
They probably even have live versions of all those songs, just because that's what they have. They have everything. So, just saying. It's the best. Love it. Spotify. Get it. I don't even get a commission. So.
Oh, but the thing is I don't buy a lot of stuff. So, you know.
Yeah, but you listen to a lot of music, and just think of all the great stuff you could have at your fingertips all the time. Sorry, did I say that enough? And you get Hulu with it, too. Oh, what? This is perfect. So, just saying. Anyway. This episode is not brought to you by Spotify. Sadly, it should be, but... Oh, my goodness. But no, sorry, you were talking about music, which is an amazing part of Star Wars.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if I have anything else to say, because I haven't had a chance to really listen to the music that much since I watched the episode. So, but I'm very excited to get more of it, and I think the theme is really turning out to be quite unique and really cool. So, I'm very excited about the music and looking forward to what else we get from this show. But yeah. That's what I got. That's what I got for today.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to say. So, I really, really like it. And there's just so much potential already. So yeah, looking forward to chapter 2 on Friday, you know?
Yes.
It's going to be pretty great. And then I do like that it'll continue every Friday, which I think just makes it so much easier, you know, for folks that work, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. It's going to be great. And I like that it will then go to the weekly release. Like, as much as, you know, there is obviously a part of me that wishes I could just sit down tonight and binge the whole thing. I'm also really glad that I can't, right? Because, like, I don't think we could you can't have a conversation like this. Like, we just talked about a 38-minute episode in an hour. Because that's all we had, you know, and again, like, I certainly love a good binge. You can't have these conversations with a binge.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, you don't get to pick up on all those, like, subtleties, the little nuances, and the little background Easter eggs that go into a Star Wars creative project. So, I'm stoked. Yeah. I'm just really stoked. So, anyway, so obviously, real quick, just last thoughts for the show. Just very excited to have Disney Plus now, right? All the Star Wars content kind of at our fingertips is pretty great. You know, but I'll say the one thing I was kind of bummed with, because I thought we were also going to get season 2 of Resistance, but maybe they're going to wait till the whole season's done, because I was looking forward to, like, catching up, but it's only the only season that's on there is season 1. So unless it's updated since I've checked this morning, but I guess that could make sense that they want people to have the channel for now, and then they'll put it on the app when it's done. I don't. Do the two of you know anything about that?
No,
I don't. Okay. I don't.
Yeah. So it's fine. I'm again, like, I really enjoyed Rebels, but I'm not, like, pining for it. Like, if I have to wait till it's done, and then, you know, that's a show that I like. I'm totally cool binging. But
Resistance, you mean?
Yeah, Resistance. So
yeah.
Anywho.
Cool. Yeah. I'm glad it's here. I'm glad it's finally here.
Yes.
Our kickoff, our 2019 end of the year Star Wars extravaganza has been officially kicked off now, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely has. I just want to go listen to Nickelback and watch Mandalorian. I can't.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. But before we do that, we have a really fun matchup that Katie came up with this week. Katie, you wanna drop it on us? Who we're pitting against each other for next week?
Yes, come with me to the playground. We can trade some Pokemon cards and talk about who would win in a fight between IG-11 and K2SO. Who would win? Who takes it? It's so good.
It's so good.
I love this matchup so much.
Just keep in mind, IG-11 cannot be captured. He must self-destruct.
Yes. Oh my God! No, don't!
Don't stop! Wait, stop it!
Oh boy!
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I'm very excited to see what people say about this matchup. And Carl, if people want to weigh in on the matchup or want to weigh in on anything that they want to talk about from The Mandalorian, where can they do that?
You can interact with us over on Twitter at Wampa's Lair. We're also on Facebook, Wampa's Lair Podcast, and you can always email us at wampaslairpodcast@gmail.com. And Katie, if folks want to continue with you and Cub and Wolf, I think that's right, in the Twitter world, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at PoHotDamarin.
Yes. Do that. Anything else you got to say before we close down this episode?
I have spoken.
Nah.
I have spoken. Excellent. So thank you, everyone, so much for listening to this episode of the Wampa's Lair podcast. It's been episode number 358. The Mandalorian Has Spoken. For Carl and Katie, I'm Jason, and we will see you next time here in the Wampa's